Okay, so the first step in refurbishing these cushions is going to be actually taking the fabric off. And so we want to actually change these ones. These are for our kitchen chairs. We're going to try to reuse as much of the material as possible, but I'll show you some kind of tips and tricks that can kind of make the job a little bit easier. So here you can see is our first cushion. They're pretty nasty. We're going to change the color for what we're doing in the kitchen. So you're going to want to flip these over. And normally you're going to have a piece of cover here. This is the one that was on there before. Try to save you some time. So you're going to want to take all the staples out of this piece first, take that off, save that, because you're going to use that to recover all these staples with your new fabric. So what I recommend first is get you a nice small flathead screwdriver and go underneath each one of these staples. And what you're going to want to do is actually just come inside, come down a little bit like this. And if you just prime up just enough just to get like kind of a V to it a little bit, then you can come in with some wire cutters. Take your wire cutters, something like that. These grab really well. You don't need to squeeze really tight because you'll just cut the staple in half. But if you go in there just right and just kind of pull down, these staples come right out. And it's very simple. Make sure you're wearing some eyewear. When you're using the flathead screwdriver, sometimes they'll break and sometimes they'll just pop right out, and they do go flying. You might be doing this for a hobby, but most likely you're doing it to save some cash. So getting a staple in the eye is not going to save you anything. So anyways, I went ahead and took off all of the staples to get the first cover off. I'm not going to bother with taking all these staples out for this current material. I'm just going to go over top of it. This is going to be face down, and underneath the bottom of the seat, you'll never see it. So what I'd recommend then is doing what I did here and actually just cut the lining off. So this fabric was right here, but what I did is I just took, you can take any kind of razor blade, just have a razor knife here, and if you just cut along the edge all the way around, you can take all this material off. Just make sure you keep the edges of this cushion, because when your legs come down, you don't want to hit a hard board right there. So make sure when you're cutting it, you're going to save the cushion to just take the material off. So now that we've taken that material off, just like that, we can lay out our new piece from underneath, bring it around, wrap it around. We can staple all across here again. And then once you go to put this cover back on, you're going to cover up both of those materials. You're not going to see any of it anyways. And again, even if you did see it, you're only going to notice it if you flip the chair upside down. So that would be the first recommendation I would have as far as getting those staples out, changing the material, how to save some time, make it a little easier on yourself. You can change the cushions out for the needs that we have on this project. I'm going to reuse these cushions. They're going to be just fine. They're a little discolored, but we're not going to see them, and they still have plenty of cushion to them. Okay, once you have your measurements, you're going to want to cut enough material to where you're going to be able to cover your whole seat. So for example, here was our old seat. That's kind of the shape right there, but you don't want to cut exactly to that shape. There's a very good chance that, especially if you change padding, you're not going to have enough material. So what you do is you're going to want to add extra. So on mine, I have found that I'm going to need at least about 2 finger lengths extra width on each side. So that once you measure that out, it's about 1.5 inches on each side. So it's an extra 3 inches. So once you get ready to cut all of your material, this is the material we're going to use for these seats. I recommend setting up a jig. So you can go ahead and cut all of your pieces all at once. They're all repeatable cuts. And the way I would do that, I use my workbench here. And even if you don't have a workbench where you can cut on or do this work, you can even do this on the floor. Just lay some cardboard down. If you want to use a razor knife like what I'm going to use here, or you can just use some traditional scissors. So what I mean by jig, it doesn't need to be complicated. Just something that has a reference point. So I'm using a straight edge here because I'm going to use the straight edge of my workbench. And if you use a piece of cardboard, you can use that straight edge as a reference. That way when you're cutting, you're going to get a straight line. So what I've done here is on the ends here, I have it marked on a line. So I put the edge of my material at that line. Now, once it's lined up on the edge of that line, it's straight. Then I made a mark here in the middle. That's going to be my cut line. So on my material, I needed 29 inches widths. I need 5 of those. So every time I line this up with my mark on the edge and I cut here, I'm always going to be a 29-inch width. Then once I go down, I'm going to have to cross cut them. I'll measure each one and cross cut the actual width I need. So for this one's going to be 28. Once you have that square cut, go ahead and wrap it around your seat after you staple. Then you can easily cut off all the excess. You'll never see it. So that's my recommendation to do that. So I'll show you kind of what you can do with the razor knife. You're just going to line your straight edge up here. Again, if you're using scissors, you can do scissors. This will definitely be faster. So you'll line up right here. You're just gonna pull right straight down, just like that. Now, I have a perfectly clean edge. You can see that thing is straighter than you're gonna get with a pair of scissors. So if you are meticulous and you want it perfect, this is the way to go. A jig will always do you better. Okay, on to the next step. All right, now we're ready for the last part. You're gonna wanna wrap your cushion with your new fabric. You wanna get yourself a stapler. I'm using my Milwaukee battery operated stapler, but you can use a pneumatic one, or you can use one that is powered by air. It even will work, just as long as you have a staple that can be driven into your material well enough. Don't use nails or anything like that. So first you're going to want to lay out your material as we showed you, wrap it around. I'm going to show you some tricks on how to staple this down and to help with the corners, whether that be a complete square or if it's kind of a rounded corner like we have here. Now I don't really want a lot of pleats, if any at all, so I'll show you kind of how to work around that to get no pleats or to have one pleat, which is the fold on each corner, whether that be each side or one in the middle. So first what you're going to do is get your stapler out. You're going to lay your material down. You're going to wrap each side. First, you're going to want to put a staple in your front side, in the middle. Pull your material over, and you're going to put one staple in the middle on the back side. You're going to repeat that on both outer edges as well. So you're going to have one staple on each portion. When you're pulling the material over, though, make sure you're not pulling too hard, because if you do and you're pressing this cushion down, you're going to have this wave all the way across here everywhere you pull. So make sure when you're pulling it over, it's nice and taut, and you're going to hold it down like that, just to where you don't see an indentation from you pulling too much. If not, it's going to have a weird look when you're done. Okay, so once we've put a staple on each each center on each side, then you're going to come back. You're going to go out from the center out, and you're going to go about 2 inches to the corner. You come back and you go into about 2 inches to the corner. You're going to repeat that all the way around. Now, as you remember, I did a lot of extra fabric on the edges here, so I got about 3 inches of extra right there, because you can always cut off, you can't add more. So you can use this trick for either pleated or non-pleated. You're going to want to take these corners down. So there's so much material right here on this edge that it's going to be hard to wrap this, and if you keep folding it like this, you're going to have a large pleat, and it's not going to sit flat on your chair or whatever your cushion's going on. So what I would use is a pair of scissors. You're going to want to pull up your excess. So what I do is pinch it. So if I'm going to say, well, that's all extra, you're going to take your scissors here and cut that off. Okay, once you cut that off, you're left with a custom cut, just like that. Instead of trying to measure out this edge and how much material you're going to need, you can just do that. Just pull it up, cut off the excess, and then take off your excess here. So I've done half of this seat so far. So this is the uncut, this is my cut portion, this is my cut corner. Then what you're going to want to do is take from the center, after you've done your staples, take from the center of your corner, pull it down, and you're going to drive a staple in right there. So you're going to just come in here, just like that. Okay. Then if you want a pleat, the first one, you're going to pull in, you're going to do a small pleat here. Don't let the pleat come all the way down on the cushion, or else you're going to see it, and you're going to see a double pleat on each corner. So you're going to do a small pleat that starts down here underneath where you're not going to see. Then you're going to take the extra material and pull in a deeper one where the pleat comes down the cushion. Okay, and you're going to repeat that for both sides. And then once this is stapled in, you're going to have a pleat here and a pleat there, just like that. Now, if you don't want any pleats, what I'd recommend is still, you're going to split this difference right here in the middle. You're going to tack that down. Then you can even set this up on edge, and you can work this back and forth just like that. Okay, now I still have a pleat right here. I want to work it out. So you're going to reach inside here, and you're going to fan this out until you get it flat, just like that. So we have still a little bit right there, just like that. So once I tack this down, I'll show no pleat on that corner. And what that'll come out with, I'll show you the one that I already finished. It's going to look just like this. So you can see this cushion here has no pleats on it. And that's the look I was wanting to go with, where it's just a nice, smooth, rounded edge on it, just like that. Okay. And again, it doesn't matter how many staples you put underneath. Nobody's going to look at it. Nobody's going to flip that chair over or bench over or whatever you're working on. You're not going to see any of that. So it doesn't matter how many you have, but you will want to cut off all that excess fabric or else it's not going to sit flat on your workpiece. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any questions or if I can help with anything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff.